This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. Have you been struggling lately? Maybe you're having trouble sleeping, difficulty with the relationship, or just suffering from self doubt. Now, y'all know there's no shame in my game, and life has been lifing lately. Trying to manage the priorities of being a wife, mom, friend, and full time entrepreneur, it can get overwhelming. If this sounds like you, then BetterHelp wants to help you today. BetterHelp offers licensed therapists who are trained to listen and help you. Talk to a therapist in a private online environment at your convenience. There are over 20,000 therapists in BetterHelp's network, which gives you access to help that may not be available in your area. All you have to do is fill out a questionnaire to assess your specific needs, and then you get matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. How cool is that? Then you schedule secure video and phone sessions. Plus, you can exchange unlimited messages, and everything you share is completely confidential. You can also request a new therapist anytime at no additional charge. Join the 2 million plus people who have taken charge of their mental health with an experienced therapist from BetterHelp. There's a special offer to the Slaying Self-Doubt podcast listeners. You get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/slang. That's betterhelp, HELP.com/slang, SLAYING. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this podcast. You're listening to the Slaying Self-Doubt podcast with Coach Felicia, where we empower Black women to overcome their doubts, fears, and insecurities in order to give birth to their God-given purpose. Join me and sometimes some of my friends on our journey as we remind you that you are not alone. I'm Felicia Wallace, and together we will find our fears and slay them. Welcome back to another episode of the Slang Self-Doubt podcast. I am here with Tracey Sarpong from Going Steady Card Game, Dating and Relationship. She got a podcast called Tried and Tested Podcast. She done a series, y'all. She's done a little bit of everything when it comes to this dating and relationship space. And so, Tracey, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you are so welcome. So, I usually start off by telling y'all how I meet my guests and how they get to be on the podcast. And Tracey was another woman who answered the threads post that I posted last year, and I'm finally getting around to this waiting list. So, Tracey, you are the second episode of this year. So I was like, I got to do my part of showing up and making sure I say I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do and not let this self-doubt show up. So I'm excited about this conversation, and I'm excited to have you here. So y'all, that's how I met her, and I have so many questions about what it is that I know you're doing. But before we get into that, I'm gonna have you introduce yourself to the audience. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started?
Yeah, so my name is Tracey. I am originally from New Jersey. My family is from Ghana, West Africa. And as Felicia stated, I have a dating and relationship card game, and it kind of began, I want to say, just from like middle school.
Mm.
I was somebody that was always interested in dating and relationships. I was someone who I didn't want to get played by a guy, so I will always be someone to kind of like ask my friends questions, like, okay, and like, like, what does this mean? What does that mean? When they do this, what do you think? What do you
Mm.
think? What do you think? And so before voice notes were popular, like I was that friend who had a scenario about everything and every person that I met. And so I knew that at a young age I did have an interest in dating and relationships.
Mm-hmm.
As I got older, I would meet all types of guys, like that were just it was just a strange dating world out there. And I feel like so that's kind of where it led me to the podcast because I would have these elaborate questions and then my friends would give me these answers and it would kind of be a dialogue and it got really
Mm.
interesting, because I would be like, okay, well, hypothetically, what if he does this or what if he does that? And so
Yeah.
essentially it was a situation where I was so curious about dating and relationships. And then when I started dating, I was meeting all types of people, and I didn't really have the guidance, I guess. Like I had like the book smarts, but not necessarily like the dating smarts.
Right.
And so that's kind of what came about at the beginning of, me now having a podcast, which also led to me emceeing events for dating and relationships, and then having my card game, go and study card game.
Nice, nice. And so look, as you were talking, right? So I always have to remind myself that this is really my kids remind me every day that I'm old, right? So as you're talking, I'm thinking middle school, and so you're saying it, and I'm like, I don't think she's talking about the 90s because in my mind,
Wait, how old are you, if you don't mind saying?
oh, I'm in my Obama year. I am 44. So
Okay, I'm 37.
okay, so we're
So
not
it's
that
not too
far off.
far.
We're
Yeah.
not too far, but I was like, when I was thinking, I'm like, yeah, I was in middle school in 93. Like,
Yeah.
because when
So
you
I
said
was
the
in,
voice notes part, I was like, when they had cell phones. So what, what year
but
is
it,
she?
yeah. So I wasn't sending voice notes, but when we got to college is when I first got a cell phone. But I feel
Oh,
like
okay.
but
Yeah.
Verizon did have like what did we have? We didn't have, I don't think we had voice notes or WhatsApp just yet, but in college we did start getting voice notes. And so I
Child, I
would
got my
send like,
first cell phone in 1997. Okay. Like, I don't.
good for me. I got that in 2005.
Listen, but by 2005, no, those were nice phones. I'm talking about we had phones that looked like, oh my gosh, like
The big one. Oh yeah, I
the
remember like even
big
like the
ones.
big one. Yeah, in the music
Yes,
videos, like
or
I
even like the smartphones. I'm trying to think of something. It probably looked that my very first phone was like, oh my gosh, it was a weird color. It was analog, and we was pressed for it to be after 9 o'clock for them free
yes,
minutes. Okay, even
yep.
though I had a time limit. One mama said, no, you can't be on the phone past 10 o'clock, so you only had an hour to talk to the people. But yeah, but yeah, so I love the fact that you took something that interested you early on and then made it like your purpose and your passion, right? Because I think so
Yeah.
often that like we'll have people will have something and it generally kind of goes to the back of their mind and they don't really like lean into it, right? They just kind of be like, whatever. And so as you were saying, like as like talking to your friends, and then that turning into a podcast. What made you think that you know what the conversations that we're having they now need to be broadcasted, right? Like why? What is it that took? What was the thing that made you think like let's make this a podcast?
Okay, so speaking of self-doubt, this is where it comes in. So basically, I went to college in North Carolina and I'm from New Jersey. And so my dream job, my dream, like what I wanted to be was like a radio personality.
Oh,
I
okay.
love I loved Angie Martinez, I loved Wendy
Yes.
Williams. But when I was growing up, they were on the radio, so that's who I really liked. And I remember I was trying to find out like what can I do? Like I had a communications degree, but I was in school
Mm-hmm.
at the time for communications. But even in high school, going to college, I'm like, what can I do to make money that I like to do?
Yeah.
But at that time, I'm like, okay, I like communications, I like talking, but how am I going to make money? So
Yeah.
that was always like, I'm like, for a long time, I did not know, like, I'm like, what can I do? And
Mm-hmm.
so when I was in North Carolina, I had transferred back up to New York and I started looking for internships. And so I got an internship at Bad Boy
Oh,
records, which is for the yeah, I got
okay.
but I had got an
Hold on,
internship.
girl. Hold on. You cannot skip over that. Like, okay, all right. Go ahead. Keep going.
I got one at Bad Boy, and then I got one at Capitol Records, and I got it on their jazz label because at that point I'm like, well, and I did try to actually intern with Hot 97, and I didn't get it, but they were just like, they don't really do much anyway, get coffee and tea. And so I
Mm-hmm.
had Bad Boy and I had Capitol, and so I'm like, okay, this is set. So at that point, I'm like, maybe if it's not radio, then I'll go into the music industry.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was my goal at the time, but that too did not pan out. But what I'm saying, so I was always in a position where I'm like, dang, like I know that this is what I love and this is,
Yeah.
I enjoy it. But I'm like, how am I gonna get like should I have stayed in North Carolina and made my own path? Like I didn't know but that was always so then at that point, while I'm in college, the voice notes are like a new thing, with Verizon. And that's
Yeah.
kind of where like now like that's how I kept up with my friends. We're in
Mm.
college. We're not always able to have the same time to be on the phones. We go out to eat and stuff like that. But it was literally like, and I wish I had like all of my phones. It was like voice messages upon messages upon messages. Like, girl, and there was a situation. Like, for instance, I went on a date with somebody and he didn't pay. So So stuff like that, like, and I'm like, girl, well, this is what happened. And like I said, I would have some stories that just, it was just kind of like crazy. And then because I had my different friends, I would like, be talking to them about it, and everybody would have different feedback. And then I would have a whole bunch of conversations with certain
Mm-hmm.
people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, so that is how eventually the podcast came along in 2020. So it's been a long
Yeah.
time coming, but that's essentially what it was from. Just, these conversations, and my love for radio, the music industry, and all of that.
Yeah, that's so. My cousins, well, sister cousins, and I started one. I don't know, it's probably like a couple of years ago, but now we too busy. We got children and all that other stuff. We ain't got time. But I that resonates with me because it started because we started watching the same TV show, right? And so we were watching Married at First Sight. It is something going on. Hold on, y'all. I'm
Oh,
sorry because it's the way this. I really just it's this. Don't worry, it's just
oh,
me. So my shoulder keeps disappearing, right? Because
oh,
of
gotcha, gotcha. The screen
the
thing, the
screen,
green
yes.
screen.
That and it was just throwing me off. But we started we were all watching Married at First Sight together. Like this like season 10 or 11 or something like that. I think whenever they was in DC. And so
Okay.
we would be FaceTiming like, girl, did you see this and that? You think you would do blah, blah, blah. And then one day it was like, we should just have a podcast where we talk about all the shows that we watch. And that is
Mm-hmm.
how it started. And we would just have all these conversations. And then, I mean, I'm somebody who I watch a lot of TV, but then after a while,
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, now Married at First Sight is too long. And I don't have 2 hours to watch TV. So I'm
I've never
just
seen it. I haven't
oh my
seen it
gosh,
yet.
it is. That's the show.
Hmm.
But it definitely is. It's like I said, it's 2 hours long, and I'd be like, I'm
Okay.
busy, and I can't speed it up. Like it's just no thanks. Now, but I understand the feeling of like you're talking about something so much that you like.
Hmm.
We can find a way to be able to do this and make it like we're funny. I know we're funny, and I know that what we're talking about, other people resonate with. So,
Right.
um, I definitely understand it. So with that, and you starting the podcast, I heard you say like you're in college, then you go back up to New Jersey, you're working at all these different places, trying to figure
Hmm.
out what do you do with the thing that you know that you want to do.
Hmm.
How has self-doubt showed up in your journey?
Well, I think self-doubt is my journey. I didn't want to fail at relationships. Like the whole purpose of
Mm,
me trying to get all this information and trying to find out all these different people's opinions was because I wanted to beat everybody else at it. I didn't want to
wow.
be heartbroken. I didn't want to, I didn't want to feel any type of, whatever. And I feel that
Mm-hmm.
but that was the self-doubt as well too, because I guess in my mind I must have had the notion that, well,
If I
I'm
if
gonna
I if I
fail.
can do this, then this will pass me by. I won't even have to worry about because I'm gonna have all the answers.
This is it. And I played my, I mean, I learned, but you get say like that was literally what it was. It was just like you're trying to get in front of something, and
Mm-hmm.
the information helped, but at the end of the day, everyone's story is unique, and the
Correct.
people that you meet are unique, and the interactions and all of that. So it made for like good conversation for sure. And I feel like it gave me a lot of wisdom in the process. But I also found out that there's certain things you cannot escape,
Yeah.
unfortunately, and you just have to live life. So
That
I
is
feel like,
so. I didn't know what you were going to say
mhm,
when I knew I was going to ask that question, but that is so. That's very insightful and like what's the word? I can't think of the word right now, but like retrospective for yourself, right? Like for you to be self-aware enough to know that that was the reason why you were seeking the information, right? It's so that you didn't fail at relationships. And I think oftentimes it shows up differently. I say always that self-doubt shows up in everything that you do. It doesn't matter who you are, what you're doing, like you will doubt yourself in certain ways. Sometimes people, the self doubt is sabotaging, right? Like they just set themselves up. In other cases, it's having too much information. So then you're over prepared for something that, you don't necessarily need to like. We don't need to go all the way down those steps if we just having coffee, right? Like,
right,
why am I worried about, how much money you making with job, you want how many kids you want to have, and I just got to know you, right? But I,
yep,
I can see how that is having all that information and wanting to know it all is protective of your heart
yeah,
and protected of you so you don't get don't get played. And in my mind, I'm also thinking, I was like, that is so smart. Because I wonder how much heartache I would have prevented myself if I
Hmm.
was asking the questions ahead of time. Like if I had different conversations with my
Yeah.
friends, right? Because I don't think that the conversations that we were having were like that deep. It was just like, girl, okay, what he say, what he do, where y'all go, blah
Right,
blah blah.
right.
Okay, you going back? What what's But it wasn't
Yeah.
really like deep or or whatever. But so what do you think that you've done since then to kind
Hmm.
of like with the information that you learned over the years and when self-doubt shows up in other areas to how to like combat it?
Okay, so first with the friends, I feel like because we were all the same age, I don't know if it was that much wisdom that they were given. I think we were kind of
You
like, oh,
right.
it was good though. It was good stuff. But I think that that was probably where a mentor or my mom or something, someone should have came
Mm-hmm.
in because I feel
Mm-hmm.
like we were, getting the information. But and then
Yeah.
also
The
when you
the
get with
blind
people,
leading the blind. That's where we was at.
yes. Yes, that's exactly where it was at. But it was still a lot of good information, and I got
Uh-huh.
a wider spectrum of like dating and stuff like that. But you sorry, can you repeat that question? What you
Oh
just
no, I
said?
was saying that I was asking how do you think that when self-doubt shows up, how are you able to combat it so that yeah, how were you able to combat the doubt that comes up in whatever it is you do, whether it's in your
Okay.
relationships currently now at this age or even in your business, like how were you able to combat the self-doubt?
I think that now I just do it. So what ended up happening was I had the podcast, but I'm like, okay, how am I gonna make money off of this? Like
Mm-hmm.
I had registered my business probably at the beginning of 2020. And I remember I took a business class. Like I was just like, I need to invest in myself. I need to figure out what's going on. And I don't know, I'm a Christian. So the
Mm-hmm.
class that I took was taught by a Christian lady. And the first thing that she made us do was like it wasn't about how you're gonna make money. She was like, write down all your fears
Mm.
and then write down a scripture to combat it. I'm sitting here
Mm.
like, girl, what are you talking about? Like we trying to get this money. Like,
Wait a
but
minute.
she literally
Well, how God get into this? I'm just trying to get paid. Listen,
that's
that's what
literally,
you
and
was thinking,
but
right?
I knew that, like I said, like we're all Christian, but it's like, I'm like, what does this have to do with it?
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, now it's almost 5 years later, I realize that's the biggest part of people's issues when it comes
Wow.
to self-doubt is fear, right? You don't think
Mm-hmm.
about like being afraid to, sorry, this thing is popping up on my screen. Anyway, you don't think about being afraid to start. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that is the number one thing. So I think that that's what it was. I'm like, okay, I like dating and relationships. Um, but what can I produce? Like, what can I do that's going to
Yeah.
bring me some income? And so I thought about the card game. So this, mind you, was 2020 in May. I'm like, all right, good. I'm gonna go ahead and start producing content on my like social media pages to start to get my like get me out there as somebody who is an expert in dating and relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I start that now, at least I'll have that. So I decided, okay, by January 2021, I'm gonna put out the card game, right? But I was like, dang, like I can't really get the information that I want. I don't know how to do it, this, that, and the third. It took me from January 2021 when it was supposed to come out to January 2023 when I lost my job. And I'm like, okay, I
Mm.
don't have any money. So let me just make this card. Let me just do it. At least it'll bring me some income. So that's literally like what
Wow.
made me actually like put the card game out, but it was fear. So the self-doubt and the
Mm.
fear is what holds you back. So now I realize that here. Like if you fail, so what? If you like you can't say you don't know how to do it because there's everything is on Google. Like there's somebody
That's
that can tell
facts.
you something
And
about
YouTube
something.
University.
Yes, I'm like, there's somebody that can tell you something about something, but I realized that even with the people that took the class with me, that are also, I mean, I'm not sure they're all Christian, but the people that I know, they still have put nothing out. Here we are
Mm.
5 years later. You get what I'm saying? So I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, for me, that was my breakthrough. Like, listen, we all have to start from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And so literally that's what I did. And I'm just like, okay, you know what? I did the first card game. I didn't really know what I was doing. Okay, I'm like, okay, I did a second one, which was it was still about dating and relationships. Now I have my third one coming out, which is Bible trivia to help people kind of get to know the word better and have fun. And then the fourth one is for the culture. So like the Caribbeans, the blacks, Africans, stuff like that. So I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna, but I'm like, listen, I cannot put myself in a box one and I
Mm.
cannot like the self-doubt is there because I'm like, dang, okay, I do dating and relationships, but I'm like, but you also have a brand now. Like you have a card game that everything is trademark. I did all that the things I had to do. So now if I own Go and Study card game, I can put out whatever I want underneath that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah. So that's pretty much
No,
how
no, I love that. I was going to say, you are absolutely right. Like the basis of self-doubt is fear, and I say often that the reason I believe we, especially as women, suffer with the self-doubt. Everybody has it, don't get me wrong, but I think
yeah.
we have it even more because we don't trust ourselves, because we have disappointed ourselves in smaller things
Mm-hmm.
consistently over and over again, and then we be like, oh, I let myself down. I was having a conversation with somebody and I was telling her something I can't even remember, but whatever it was, I was like, stop saying that, because you keep doing that and you just making it worse for yourself. Like, I was like, I don't mean to make it so deep, but like, stop. You're like, we keep running the same story in our heads over and over, and the movie just keeps playing. And it's not to say that you're not going to have things that's going to that I'm not saying that you're not going to have things that's going to scare you, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be like, oh, if I do this, this is maybe what happened. But to your point, okay,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? And I'm
That's
like, I
what
know we
you
always be like drastic, like, did you die? But legit, if you're not causing harm to somebody, like, it's
yeah.
literally an idea. And I saw something recently where somebody was like, if God put it in your heart and in your head and it stays there, it's because it's supposed to come out. And
Right.
I've said, through my journey of, slaying self-doubt, that um I would hate for somebody else to have this. And I knew I had it in my hands. I
That's
knew
it.
I
You
had
say
it in my
you
hands.
gotta
Because at the
yep.
end of
Yeah.
the day going in. And he
Yep.
gonna make sure that his work is done. And so
Yep.
what I said is that I don't want to be the person that held up whatever was supposed to happen because I was
Mm-hmm.
too afraid. It reminds you of that parable that when the three guys have
The talents?
yeah, oh yeah, the talents, right.
Okay.
And
All
he
right.
was so afraid that he buried, like,
Yep.
who, ain't nobody
The,
tell you to do all that.
yep.
Like, I
And he
gave
lost
it to you
everything.
for you and you lost everything. And then
Yeah.
also got shunned, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
go over there and
Yep.
would they burn him up or dug a hole? They did something
They
to the
took
man, right?
they took all the money from him and they gave it to the first person who made the most money. So therefore it's like somebody else got it. And one of the
Yes.
worst things to do is to see the person you should have been. Like,
Mm,
oof,
mm,
it just
mm.
eats you up inside,
Yes, that
like
that just that right there just gave me goosebumps, right? That like you said, you see the person that you could have been, and then you hating because you were like, man, that ain't what how it's supposed to look, right?
yep.
Because I can guarantee you, whoever's listening to this right now, like you have ideas around whatever it's supposed to be. You have this,
Yeah.
but the thing that you're worried about is who gonna be there. If
Mm-hmm.
somebody gonna show up, is it going to be impactful? My pastor said something, and I've used this sentence over and over again for myself when I do get in those spaces. He said, "Trust God with the obedience. Trust God with the outcome of your obedience. As long as you do what you're supposed to do, God will do the rest."
Yep.
And I and also just running His track record. Like
Right.
I was telling somebody this week, when I think about, baby, let me tell you something. I got some days, right, that I really did think that this was it. Like,
Yep.
Elizabeth, I'm coming home type situation. Like it was this is this every you think about the number of times we have said this is the worst day of my life, but we
Mm-hmm.
still here.
Right.
This was the worst situation. I don't know how I'm gonna get out of it. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but we're here, right?
Right.
And so when I
Yep.
think about that, I'm like, was it as bad as that? No. Well, then I can get through this because
Right.
it couldn't be as bad as what that was, right? But I think that that fear thing is what
You
stops so many people from moving forward, or like you said, just starting. You just
right.
scared to just start.
To just jump in. And I think what you mentioned earlier was true to the friendship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the people that are around you, like they kind of put fear onto you. So for instance, I feel like I said that class, I thought that I was gonna have, which it did help. But I'm like, the people I did it with, like, y'all not doing nothing. So
Mm.
therefore, when you don't have people around you that are going like forward, it's kind of like you kind of are just stagnant. You get what I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
say? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and they
Mm-hmm.
like, and I feel like also like, let's say, like, let's say you have a friend and they want to make I don't know, they want to make sneakers or they want to do whatever. And it's like, but you told me that 10 years ago, you still not doing nothing.
Right.
And so it's definitely like sometimes you just have to be quiet and
Mm-hmm.
just do it. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And it's funny because like last year, I want to say from February to October, last year was a really, really hard year for me. And so I realized I wasn't putting out any content, like anything, regarding my business. I'm like, well, how am I gonna make sales? And I remember thinking, like, Tracy, so you mean to tell me that all of the people that are around you, like nobody, I mean, yeah, people may have asked here and there, but nobody was doing anything enough for you to feel like I gotta get on it. I
Yeah.
can't stop. You get what
Yeah.
I'm trying to
Yeah.
say?
Yep. Yep.
So,
Yep. Yep.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so it's the people sometimes too. But I think when you know that you have a specific purpose, like they often say that the thing that you struggled in the most may be what your purpose is, correct? So for
Mm-hmm.
me, all of that self-doubt, I mean, there's a lot of people who have went through that when it comes to dating and relationships.
Yeah.
And so now when we come to go and study card game, yeah, it's a card game, but at the end of the day, the purpose is for it to is for basically you to ask the right questions.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
here I go, somebody that like I used to go out on dates because I like free food. I'm like, listen, free food, a free outing, company. Like I'm very social, so that was the thing for me. But what I started to realize was before I fully came to Christ, was that I'm not asking the right questions. Like there's some
Mm-hmm.
things if you would have known today, like you wouldn't have wasted 8 9 months with this
Right.
person. Like
Girl.
it's, so that's exactly what it is. So like it's kind of like a fun game, but it's also like some of the questions I may have asked my friends like on our audios and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. And it's like when you're out, you can play it in a group setting. Like let's say you are like we played it at a pool party recently in the summertime, a cookout, and of course most of us didn't know each other. We were there for someone's birthday, but it now allowed like the men and the women to come together to feel
Yeah.
comfortable to
It breaks
talk.
that ice. So it's
Yes,
not that awkwardness of,
yes,
hey, how you doing?
yep.
Whatever,
And
whatever,
if your date is there, you can hear what they say.
Oh, what
Because
what he
sometimes
say? Oh, okay then.
yeah, that's literally it though, the mental notes, because like sometimes people like basic things, even your own friends, you can learn something about them, like, oh, we don't
Mm-hmm.
align with that, or oh, I get you on that. You get what I'm trying to say? So
Yeah, nah, for real. That definitely I can see how that's gonna be happening. So before we jump into that, I have another question and then
okay.
but before that, I want to get to the front, what you just said about having the right people around you, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think that also we have to be mindful about, you know, none of us are Jesus, although we tend to act like we're Jesus Jr. in some cases. But he had 12 people around him. Not everybody is going to be your yes person, right?
Yeah.
Some people are going to challenge you. Some people are going to question what it is that you do. But if
Mm-hmm.
at the base of it, they have your best interest at heart, as long as they not, Judas or whatever have you. Because even Peter denied him, but then he came back once he realized that he was. But that's never mind, y'all. The point of the matter is that you need to know who your circle is, because I know exactly what you're saying. Like you can have multiple sets of friends, but the ones who, when I said out loud, "Oh, I'm gonna do this podcast," and then it was like, where the podcast at? Why I ain't heard you say nothing about Didn't you tell me like 6 months ago you was gonna do a podcast? Oh, I'm talking about, I've met people over the years that have walked up on me and been like, I haven't heard you on the pod. You still doing the podcast? And I'll be like, okay, Lord, with the
It's
accountability,
the
like
reminder.
leave me alone. But those are the things it's like, you know what? That's what
Yeah.
I need. But like you
Right.
said, if nobody around me is checking for me, not
Mm-hmm.
trying to encourage me, I need
Mm-hmm.
to rethink the people that's around me,
Yeah.
because especially if I'm an encourager of you and trying to figure
Right.
out like what's going on with you, I would want the same in return. And so
Right.
I think it's very important that whatever it is that you're doing, and it doesn't have to be business, y'all. It could be you trying to get a promotion, you trying to lose
Right.
weight, you trying
Yeah.
to, save money. Somebody should be like, how is your savings challenge going? How is it? You need any accountability, you need any support, you need anything, like somebody should be asking you what's going on with you to keep you kind of motivated. And if you don't have that, check your circle. We
Yeah.
check your circle, y'all.
Yeah.
So what have you learned about yourself during this journey that you didn't know before?
Um, I think the biggest thing was that it's fear. I think that was what I learned. That I think that I mean we can do anything. What stops? Some people have multiple businesses. They have all these, all this, these different ideas that they're able to put forward. And I think that you can do anything. Like the number one thing that sticks in my mind is that somebody created post-its. Like we've had paper forever. You get what I'm saying? But somebody
Facts.
created posters, and I feel like every time I think about that, I'm like, it's not the idea is not dumb. Like somebody created a snuggie. We already have blankets. You get what I'm trying to say? So there's a customer for everybody, and everybody is not your customer.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, if it's something that you love, I think that you should definitely and that's where I'm at now. Like I said, it's something that I love. I have to do it. You may not make a million sales in 1 year. I think Coca-Cola, I think they sold 2 bottles or 3 bottles in the first year that they actually came out. And so my thing is that, listen, I'm gonna keep my eye on what I believe the Lord has called me to do.
Yep.
I don't need your opinion. I don't care what you have to say. Now that I've gotten a mindset that I have to just do it.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, with friends, like it's not even just on what they say, but it's like y'all don't want more. Like it's like you don't want to do.
Yeah.
And of course,
Yeah.
business is not for everybody. That I know. It's not for all of us. But it's just like, you have an idea, but you don't want to push
Mm-hmm.
it forward. And that would also encourage. But I was like, girl, encourage yourself. That's it.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
it's go time. That's literally like that's
Yeah,
it.
I think one of the things that I try to remind myself whenever I do have, clients or friends who are having, a part of outside of the podcast I do coaching. And so when people are
Hmm.
having that fear of like, well, what if I be like, bruh, I don't have one by me right now. But I was like, people pay for water.
Different brands,
Water's
salty
free.
water.
But water is free.
Right.
You can get tap water. Like the water that's coming out your faucet is not going to kill you. Otherwise,
Yeah.
we we was drinking water out of water hoses when we was kids, okay? Water is free. It now
Yeah.
comes in glass, plastic, boxes. You hear
Yeah.
me?
This is it.
You walk down the water aisle and people are paying for free water.
Yeah.
And you think your idea is stupid? Like you don't think this gonna work? You don't think like that is a motivation? Even the bread aisle.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so many brands of bread. Like it's all the same thing. And then
This,
the thing about it is that we be picky when we in it. What kind of bread do I want today? Do I want the honey wheat? Do I want the butter? It's all bread. It's all
yeah.
it's all bread. So that just goes to show you multiple people can have the same idea. It just
This
doesn't
is
look
it.
like whoever needs the gluten free.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody created gluten free because somebody was sick and they couldn't eat the regular one, so they had a gluten. That's why now we have organic. Like everything as it evolves is because literally it came from somebody's burden, somebody's pain, somebody's something that was in it. Like I can't do this anymore. Something has to change, right? And so I'm always in the space of like looking at those two aisles. Because we in the grocery store at least once a week, right? Between the water and the bread aisle, like if that don't encourage you, like, bruh, look at all this bread and look at all this free water in these bottles, and people is out here buying it by the cases.
Even look at
Like,
Twizzlers and candy corn. They've been in business for years, and they the most disgusting thing I ever had.
okay,
Just
I don't
like
even know what is candy corn. Like, what is that? I don't even know. It don't even taste like corn. I mean, all types of stuff, right? So
yeah.
we have to think about the things that, like, some stuff really just is not making any. It doesn't make sense to the person who doesn't need it, right? But the
Right.
person who needs it is like, oh my god. I've been looking for this all my life, right? Like if I knew
Yep.
that this existed, I would have bought this long ago, right?
Yep.
And so even to what we're about to get into, as you have been talking, throughout this whole thing, it's like I've thought on to myself multiple times, like, dang, cards that would have been such. Those are just that's a great conversation starter for anybody. Like I even like when you say like your friends,
Hmm.
because how many of us have been in friendships for years, and because of history, you
Yeah.
don't
Wasting your
realize
time.
20 years later, you like, oh, we never saw eye to eye.
Hmm.
But
Or
the
you
only
never
thing
liked
we
me.
had together was a good time. You didn't
Yeah.
like me, and I really wasn't fooling with you. Like, what are we
Hmm.
doing here, right? Now I done wasted years on a friendship that maybe if we had had not a certain a lot of I'm just saying this is a part of like people having surface conversations,
Yep.
right? And when you have a surface conversation, everything is like, "Hey, girl, how you doing? In that voice too, like versus digging deep, right? So
Right.
let's talk about all things dating and relationship. I want to talk about all the things that led, which you've been kind of telling us, all the things that led up to the card game. You
Sure.
did explain what the card game is about, but I want to talk a little bit deeper into like what some of the questions may be, like what are some of the people, you know, that have already used it. What are some of those things that they've been saying? So let's start with all the things that you offer and how we got to the card game.
Okay. So the things I guess I offer, I think mainly right now it is the card game, but I do
Okay.
have the podcast, which is it has like 7 seasons. So that's the tried and
Come,
tested
don't
podcast,
don't
which is
say I guess. You know most podcasts don't last past three, baby. We are an anomaly, okay? Like we're in the 1%. If you they say if you make more than 12 episodes, you
oh,
are in the 1% of podcasters.
okay, well, and I mean, I haven't made anything for like I think about a year, so I'm definitely gonna get back to that. Because I think the last season, I didn't have any guests, but I feel like because with the guests, sometimes it's like hit or miss. You know what I mean? Like
Oh,
they'll
I
say, "Oh,
know. Oh, I know.
they'll say like, oh, I could talk about the topic," and then when you get there, it's like, come on, you're not saying nothing. So the last season was just kind of me
Baby.
just testing out. It was just me testing out like my just what if I could just talk, because I
Mm-hmm.
feel like when people go on like Instagram Live, for instance, they're just talking, right? Or TikTok
Yeah.
Live. So I was like, let me try it and see. But yeah, so I have the podcast, tried and tested podcast, which is available like at Spotify everywhere or what have you. The love series with Love Trey, it was just me like kind of like I think they call it man on the street. When you go
Mm.
around and you ask people questions,
Mm-hmm.
and that was prior to the card game. And then I just came out, like I said, with the card game. And it's pretty much, like I said, all things dating and relationships. One of the questions will be who should pay for the first date?
Mm.
And it's funny because the purpose of the game is not only to give you like you guys can discuss and have the answer. People start to argue. People start to share personal
I can
stories about
imagine.
what they share personal stories about what happened to them. So sometimes you don't even get through all the cards anyway,
Mm.
because now depending on how big the group is, they be like, well, one time this happened, one time that happened, like different things like that. And so it's essentially one to break the ice, to get the conversation going, and to build relationships around you.
Yeah.
Like the cookout that we went to, like the pool party, it was just like we didn't all know each other, but it was
Mm-hmm.
just like a good time because now even the most quiet person in the corner, everyone got something to say.
Right.
Everyone has a
Facts.
story to tell, so it definitely helps. But it's pretty much we're trying to build better and healthier dating and relationship lives,
Yeah.
and like, friendship is also a part of it, and that is
Mm-hmm.
also one of the ones that are coming out because people are lost in friendship, people are getting played, people are buying friendship. It's like it's insanity out here. And so that's
Yeah.
basically what it is. But essentially it's to help us. So let me see if I have a card deck somewhere. I don't know where. I have boxes. Okay, one question I think that's really important. I think and this one was just like, what is a bigger commitment, marriage or having children?
Mm.
And so for that one, it was you get what I'm trying to say? Because I mean some
Mm-hmm.
people, but a lot of people, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of people said marriage, I think, like throughout the different games that I've seen or heard, or and
Mm.
people send me content when they play it. And I'm like, but how can it be marriage if the kid you can't kill the child? Like the child like, after the
Yeah,
child,
you
like
can't divorce your kid. Yeah. And I'm
yeah.
and I'm saying this as someone who is married but also a part of a blended family. Like I'm
Mhm.
like I was a parent before I was married. And so the to me, I mean they both are commitments, but I would I also think it's who's answering the question because baby, I gotta have the baby. So like if I'm gonna go all the way to push you out, then I'm committed. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
that my answer would probably be the yeah and having kids, but are we so then but see then the question is are you saying see now I'd be like is the commitment to the person because you had a
But
kid or like are you saying like what's the greater commitment is like being someone's their parenting the same child or for those two people to get married.
well, see, that's a part of the game too, because basically, I'm not making a question so specific. You guys can,
You
but
gotta
you got like, so let's say you were with like four other friends. Now you guys can hit every single angle, and just that one card game can literally bring so much like commotion, so much joy, so
mm-hmm
much laughter.
mm-hmm
And then it's like I said, you'll start sharing stories and you get to know people better. So if it's
Yeah.
for a first date, for instance, you'll be able to kind of see who you're dealing with where you're not too far in, but then you'll be able to kind of see like, do I like him? Do I not like him? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that's
Mm-hmm.
pretty much
No,
like
I like that though. That was a look. Now you got me over here wondering. Like I'm over here like, dang, is it? I'm like they both are huge commitments. But just that one
yes.
question, I could see how there would be, if, like you said, four people in a room. You could have a different conversation. I'm gonna actually ask my husband that later.
You
Like,
should.
which one you think?
But and you see the thing is that like for me, I would think I'm like it got to be marriage because no, I mean it got to be children because you can get a divorce today, right? And then you're no longer tied to that person unless you have the children.
Oh,
But
unless
I'm
you
like
have
with a
children. Yep.
child, yeah, with the child, like this is a forever thing. More than likely,
Mm-hmm.
your child is going to outlive you. So how? But a lot of people would rather have the children than get the marriage. And so
Mm.
that's where it's kind of like, but that's why I asked that question because I'm like, well, something got to be backwards. You're scared to get married. You feel like they're going to take you for all you got, but you have a human being with the person.
Right,
You know what I'm
right.
saying? So
And on
that's
top of
the
that, you
kind of like,
can't guarantee how your kid turns out either, right? So that is you are
exactly.
also expecting that in thinking about that question, you
Hmm.
are I'm using my air quotes and I'm saying this as like y'all like literally I'm use there's no other word I can use, but you're expecting for both situations, your marriage
Hmm.
and your child to be normal and whatever that may mean. But these air quotes is up. Like I'm not
Exactly.
saying what it, but you are expecting no type of interference, no nothing negative
Hmm.
happening in any no like you're answering this question thinking it's going to be a straight road, and we know
Yep.
the Lord don't even work like that. That's going to
Nope.
be so regardless of whatever it is you choose, it ain't going to be as easy as you think it is.
Hmm.
However, I agree, like I think the commitment is and I like the word commitment
Hmm.
because when you say that, because even thinking about it, I'm like, my kids are older, they're about to become adults. Like we're changing the relationship is going to start to look different. But when you 50, you still my baby,
Yep.
right? And if you
Forever
need
and
me,
ever.
I'm still there, right?
Yep.
But eventually, you be like, your husband, you're like, get it yourself. What? You know, but my child, you know what I'm saying? Again, also depending on the way, it's yeah, I can see this going so many different
Yeah,
ways,
because
so
people
many
have the thing
different
is
ways.
people have valid points. So when you
Mm-hmm.
sit there, it's like this person saying that, this person saying that, and they start giving examples. You're like, dang, I never thought about it like that. You know
Yep.
what I'm trying to say?
Yep.
So it really is like, and another example of a question that was a little iffy. Is it your place to tell your friend? Is it your place to tell your friend that their fiance or is cheating? And
Yeah.
then people start but you see, like people, well, you lose friends over that sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm.
and they're like, well, maybe I'll write a note and put it on their card. Like, I won't tell them directly. Like, people say different things because you want to mind your business when it comes to other people's relationships
But see,
sometimes.
I would want to know, like, don't set me up, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, tell me,
But
let
some
me
people
be
don't
out.
know.
But you're right. Depending on
Yeah.
your answer, may be depending on what you would want. I'm gonna
Hmm.
tell because I want to know.
But you might
But
lose
if
a
I don't
friend.
know that you don't want to know as my
Yeah.
friend, then I done
People
messed
get
up our
mad.
friendship because you wanted to be in the dark.
Yeah, people get mad though. And one of the
Mm,
girls, I remember we had did it at a birthday dinner, and she was saying like she gave us the whole story like that. She had a friend, she had the proof that he was cheating, she seen him, and she said that basically they stopped being friends. Like the girl, she told the girl went back and told the man, and they flipped it on her like she was the bad guy, and then they're still together. But that happens a lot. You get what I'm saying? So for me, I'm
sure.
typing up a letter, I'm putting it on your windshield, and I hope it don't rain. Like at this point,
Right.
because like, no, I'm minding
Yeah,
my
see,
business. It's a
I
lie.
don't know. That's
Just break
hard
up.
because then the question then becomes if we friends though. Like if I say you're my friend, I should
Mm-hmm.
be able to tell you whatever it is I need to tell you, right? And so I think this right here, I can see how these questions can lead to arguments but I think that the other part is that again, like I said earlier, is not having surface conversations, right? And just
Right.
talking about regular stuff. Like you learn more about people when they are vulnerable and transparent and your relationships are deeper and they are I believe that they are healthier when you have that type of transparency because I
Yeah.
know, you know what I mean?
Right.
But you don't, if you don't, a lot of times people, to me, I would say over the years, as is, time has gotten, like, I have friends that I've had since middle school, right?
Right.
And we done been through some stuff together, right? So I
Hmm.
know that what's the name? I was getting ready to say it. I was like, what's the name of your podcast? Is it Tried and Tested? Oh, I was
Oh,
getting ready to
try
say
and test it.
tried and
Yeah.
I was like, ours is tried and true because I know for a fact we done been through some stuff together, and if we
Hmm.
made it through that, we good to go, right? But I think that there's a lot of, social media plays a part in this. You think you're friends with
Hmm.
people, and you're really not. It's
Hmm.
not real, right? It's this just
Right.
we're social friends. You
Yes.
see this play out on reality TV shows and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Just because
Yeah.
I invite you places don't mean that. This is why people shouldn't be using the word friend.
Right. You
I know
gotta.
her.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
her. I know of her. We're an acquaintance. Okay.
Right.
We cool. But if you my friend,
I think which so I think that sometimes the relationship trumps friendship. So like if you're married, right?
mm,
Like I've had a best friend, one of the guys, we've been friends for about 25 years. We stopped being friends last year. I can't tell you why. I don't know what happened, but I know he has been with a girl for a good amount of time. And I think once we stopped being friends, not too long ago, like not too long after that, they got engaged. And so I know that she didn't like me, but I mean, it wasn't. We were just friends, like since we were
mm-hmm.
young. And so for me, though it was painful, I'm like, but your life partner has to trump the friendship. You get what I'm saying? If you're gonna marry
Agreed.
that person, there's nothing I can do. So when it comes to love, like you can come and tell me that my man is cheating, let's just say. But depending on how I feel about him, depending on the conversations that we have, it I may not leave.
Yeah.
Hope I
No,
mean I
that's
think I
true.
would, but you get like, and so that's why I'm saying. So if you're gonna open your mouth and say something, you have to know that. Listen, depending on what they got going on, if it's marriage, if it's whatever, you're gonna be the bad guy, and that's
Yeah.
where it gets
Yeah.
hard. You get what I'm saying?
No,
So
that's good because I
yeah.
think that you can I have had this conversation with other people. It's like you can
Hmm.
say whatever it is that you want to say, but you can't control how that person is going to react. And you have to, before you open your mouth,
Hmm.
you need to be clear about how this may turn out.
Hmm.
And if you are not, like, you need to prepare yourself for it going left.
Right.
If it's worth it to you to just say it, and you are okay with it going left and you at peace with it, you need to
Right.
make peace with whatever the decision you're going to make one way or the other. But
Hmm.
you, whatever decision you make, you better stay on that side, right? Don't say you're not going to say nothing and then you side eyeing. You know what I'm saying? Every time,
Yeah.
like, and I'm asking you what's wrong. Nothing, nothing. Don't do that,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Either say something or don't.
Right.
Either you make a decision one way or the other. And I do agree that I wouldn't necessarily say that relationships trump friendships. I think that I think I would say my encouragement or my advice would be that I think it depends on I think you got to evaluate both, right? Like,
Yeah.
what do you value more? That's what I tell people. Like, what do you value, right? Is
Right.
that it, like, relationships, friendships, all of that should have an ROI. Like, what am I getting in return for all of this? If
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
stressing myself out about this, but when I really think about it, this person not checking in on me, they not calling me, they not checking for me,
Right.
they not doing nothing except for when we're in like real like friend groups or whatever have you.
Hmm.
Are we really friends? If I call you today and tell you I needed X, Y, and Z, like, would you know what's happening with me?
Right. But I think what I meant with that too is like it's a like when you get married, it's a vow before God. Like you're making a
Correct.
covenant.
Yeah.
So I mean like I guess like it's I would say like it's probably way more or there's a commitment and a
Oh
vow
yeah,
before
yeah, yeah.
God as
For
opposed to like a
sure.
friendship where
Yeah.
it's like so the marriage people can try to work it out or the
Mm-hmm.
people going into marriage. You get what I'm saying? So like I said, so you can end up on the wrong side, where it's just like
Yes. I see what you're
unfortunately
saying.
even if the woman still is cool with you, the husband is looking at you sideways, like,
Right.
oh, I don't like her. You know what I'm saying? Like,
And now
so
he looking over his back no matter where he at because he knows
right.
somebody knows something, right? Yeah, no,
Yeah.
you're right. But that's why I said I think in no matter what the situation is, you got to make peace with whatever decision you're gonna make and
Right.
know that. And I think that a lot of times we have to be open to the fact that people change. If I change, you can change, right? And
Right.
so our relationship could change. And if we're not growing, we talked about this earlier about your who your circle is and who's around you. That also goes for your spouse. I've seen lots of marriages with people outgrow their spouse, right? So that's why I said I think it's a matter of some of it is just conversations, is talking, which is why this card game is so important, because when you're not having those conversations, you don't even realize that you're outgrowing each other, whether it's a
Right.
partner or a friend. You don't
Right.
realize that I'm going in this direction and you going in the opposite direction, but because we've been doing routine stuff for
Right.
so long around each other, it just seemed like, oh, okay, we're good. We're good. We're
Yep.
good to go, you know? So yeah, you know what? I already know. I'm gonna go ahead and give me one of these. Had this for like a girls' night or something. Um, because I feel like this would be a great conversation. So I know you said coming up is one is for the culture, and then you said Bible
Bible
trivia.
trivia. Yes.
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 And so I'm excited. I'm excited for you. I'm
Thank
excited
you.
for this. So how can people connect with you?
So they can connect with me on Instagram. My name is the official Tracey Sarpong. So the word the official, my first name Tracey, last name Sarpong. They can find me on there. They can also find the card game at Going Steady Card Game, which is also on Instagram. Email is tracysarpong@gmail.com. And I think that's pretty much it. You'll be able to find more, or you can just Google me or the card game.
I
It'll
know
pop
that's
up.
right. She said Google her. Okay. Well, y'all already know all the information is going to be in the show notes, so y'all can just go ahead and click it. But for now, if you are looking, the name of the card game is called Going Steady Card Game. And I like that it's that Going Steady, that it took me back a little bit. And that's why that's another reason why I was like looking when you said like middle school, and I was just like, girl, that is way back in the day. I don't even know if we was
The
using
50s.
that
That was the
word.
50s. Yeah.
Yes. And so I was like, oh, what she know about Going Steady? You know, that's what people be saying. But Tracey, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing. I am like I said, I'm grateful that you said yes, and I'm also happy that you turned your passion into your purpose. And I just pray whatever it is that God has in store for you and your business, that His will be done in your life. And so I just want to thank you for being a guest on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed myself.
You are so welcome. All right, y'all. Until next time, keep slaying, sis. See ya. This episode is sponsored by the Using the Power of Your Voice eGuide, your guide to launching your podcast in 30 days. Slayers, are you feeling a call from God to start a podcast but uncertain about where to begin or what you'll need? Creating a podcast can be a fulfilling and enjoyable experience. Whether you're interested in sharing your expertise on a specific subject, conducting engaging interviews, or educating and entertaining your listeners, podcasting can help you establish strong connections and foster a sense of community. Using the Power of Your Voice is a guide to start your podcast in just 30 days, and it's perfect for anyone who is clear that God told them to start a podcast. Whether you're nervous about recording or unsure where to start, this guide will provide you with valuable insights and actionable steps to help you record and launch in 30 days. In this guide, you'll learn to identify your why, find your topic, learn where to host your podcast, and what equipment you need to start. If you are ready to be obedient to your calling and start your own podcast in just 30 days, download your copy of Using the Power of Your Voice today by going to www.slangselfdoubt.com/podcast. That's www.slangselfdoubt.com/podcast. Thank you for your support, and I can't wait for you to start using the power of your voice. All right, y'all, that's all for this week. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to share, subscribe, rate, and review. Remember to head over to Facebook and Instagram and follow me at Slaying Self Doubt. Oh, wait, don't forget, go to my YouTube channel and watch this episode, and remember to press the subscribe button. Until next week, see ya.